And that means we have time to take another break and stretch our legs and talk to real human beings here in the room. For you guys that are watching at home, I'm going to turn over now the presentation to the moderator, Alexander Tombansen. So he's innovation manager at NTT Data, and he's going to moderate a remote debate from Germany. So see you back here at 2:40. Thank you.
Okay, so we make it on the fly with some discussions.
We're on.
Okay, hello everyone and welcome to the 20-minute break or the 20-minute live debate that we are offering you here from the Global Innovation Technologies team from NSDB. The topic today is how do companies actually benefit practically from innovation and new technologies? With me here to discuss this, I have Marc Albrecht, Vice President and Head of the Global Innovation Technologies team, Wolfgang Möller, and also Matthias Siegmund, and I think live with you on stage is also Thomas Nörmark. So let's get the ball rolling. The first question to you, Matthias, what actually is innovation? How can it be defined?
Yeah, this is actually a good question because in the marketing and all out there, we see that a lot. We talk about, okay, this is an innovative company, this is innovative people, and so on and so forth. But we seldomly ask the question, okay, what does this actually mean? And when talking about innovation, then most probably people think about, okay, this is the next iPhone or this is the next Tesla and so on and so forth. But with that, we are more or less like concentrating on the what and maybe also to some extent on the how. But we are missing out like the most important thing when we're talking about innovation, the why. Why are we doing something? What is the purpose behind it? What is the vision and so on? And there's actually like a fantastic TED talk about that out there from Simon Sinek, and he calls this concept the golden circle. So basically starting from the inside out, why, how, and what. And I think the same applies for innovation, because when we are starting with the why, then it's clear that the innovation always depends on the customer. It always depends on the point of view. What is the starting point? Where do you start with? And obviously, then it's quite clear that there are different definitions and different understandings of innovation out there. Because a company on the one hand side, which is heavily invested in research and development, probably has quite a different understanding of innovation than the small shop next door. And it's not about like inventing something per definition. It's more about, okay, taking something which is out there and putting it to a new solution to contribute to a benefit or something like that. And because when we think about from the past, when we're looking about the famous example of how was the mass production introduced in the automotive industry. So Henry Ford took this concept actually from the slaughterhouses in Chicago. So, and with that, a bit of a lengthy introduction, I would say, okay, coming back to your main question, if you ask me what is my definition of innovation, it's more or less like turning ideas into new solutions that add value to a customer or to a company or whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. And before we go over and ask the same question to Wolfgang and Marc, perhaps, would you describe innovation more of as a one-off activity, or does it go more into the direction of perhaps a growing and ongoing process?
No, it's definitely more than just a one-off thing. It's more like this constant change, this constant continuum where we are at the moment in, which requires, okay, we need constantly to adapt ourselves and so on.
Mm-hmm. Perhaps some comments from you, Marc, on this same topic.
Yeah, so when we are discussing the innovation topic, and I think the key point Matthias already started to outline is how to bring it from a why discussion. And we have seen in the past a couple of, let's say, years where a lot of organizations just started to innovate for the sake of innovation. And I think, lucky-wise, Corona stopped that process a bit, because if you are looking to that one, how many organization companies building up their own garage environment and saying just by building up that framework, we now have this garage people and they are doing all this fancy startup, which we are seeing all over the world. And we have got the Silicon Valley now being transferred over to every country, every city, every location in the world. That is not how is innovation run. And in the current time, I really need to admit, I'm not talking about innovation. I'm talking about the adoption of modern technologies. If we are looking to what's on the stage, and you have seen already during today's session, so we have got this fancy screens behind you, we have got the Agadia tools with the waste management and water management. That is how the technologies can be integrated into the business process. And that leads to the point where Matthias related to, that is the why. It's not doing innovation for the purpose of doing innovation. It's really to providing better services to our customers, better quality to the market, and really differentiating elements, how to secure the business for the future. And that is, for me, innovation. And innovation is the adoption of modern and latest technologies, and have got the creativity to transfer it from one industry to the other.
Okay, great. Thank you. Wolfgang, as Matthias and Mark just mentioned, innovation is not a one-off thing, but an ongoing and growing process. Could you perhaps shed some light on the transferability of innovation to different companies and especially different industries?
Okay, hello to the world. As Matthias and Mark just mentioned, it's really not really one time. It was, and you remember now what Thomas and Rasmus said about the Smart Island project. 60 sensors we have placed somewhere in the island using platforms which are existing, using different kind of sources. And what we tried from the beginning in this example, and you have seen these tiny little things Thomas showed to the camera, that was industry supply. We tried to bring industry partners on board. We want to build building blocks, and these building blocks from the lowest level, from the sensor to the platform and to the application, was made to reuse. And this is something what also industry customers should take care of, to say, okay, build platforms, use good things, you can reuse it. As Thomas said, for example, the cameras, we're using an NVIDIA in the background. That is industry standard. We're using models. We reuse these models. We retrain these models and use them for other cases. And we can roll it out to other cases. Just see Thomas in the background. And what we used is also the platform using for Gardio and for the Smart Island project was based on Microsoft, and we are using some kind of Snowflake to data capture. We use that for other projects as well. When we look to the application layer, the integration layer, the integration of Microsoft to SAP, for example, that was one thing we use as a building block. We can reuse it and use it for other industries. Analytics on top, also looking at the same one. So for me, it's important that we industrialize the whole implementation of such a, let's say, very interesting projects like we have seen in Small Island, that we can take it and reform it and bring it to other industries, bring it to other customers. Otherwise, and coming back to Matthias' statement, otherwise, in the life cycle, we cannot maintain that. And we bring not the speed on the road. And this is for me also important for customers, not to look one time, look at one POC. No, look how you can roll it out in your industry, in your company, and across the borders.
Let me add one comment here, Wolfgang. And I think that you just started with a very, very good example when you're talking about the Smart Island, and we had it here as a previous session. When I'm looking to customers, and you can comment on that one as well, I'm seeing on the one hand, they've got a lot of data in different sources. So they've got disconnected data sources, and we can talk about a data lake, and that is point number one. On the other hand, I see many, many times a little bit the challenge that customers have got a little bit of fear of themselves to say, what do we want to achieve in the future? And really how to work on that. And I think when we are talking with customers, what would be your vision? They're all talking, we want to change our business models, or we want to disrupt ourselves. reality is they want to modernize themselves and not to disrupt everything what they have.
Right.
And if I'm just seeing what and considering what you're just saying, on the one hand we have got the data lake, and on the other hand we are getting the new sensor. And if we are combining them carefully, that is where completely new assets can come around to the business model, and where we can see it. And I think, Thomas, you may have some ideas here as well, how to bridge the technology with the modern world, or with the existing world which we have at the current time here. We have got Thomas maybe lost for a second, but Volker, you can comment on that one as well.
I can hop in, and I take this as an example of Smart Island. What we did is we spoke to people who had no clue about IT, with all respect. They are having a business challenge. We talked to different stakeholders, and based on these different stakeholders, we come to a conclusion, say, okay, we need these elements. But in the first stage, there was no discussion about technology. That was the second stage. First of all, we looked at the outcome. We looked for whom we do it. And this is also what customers should do. Talk to the business. The business knows best what supports him. Then look at the people who are supporting, look at the processes, and look at them as a technology. Not the best technology wins, the overall wins. And this is for me quite important. But Thomas, I think he's back. Maybe he can also give some update on that one.
Sorry, I had to leave the stage because of some feedback problems when I unmute. So, but they can hear me now, and I'm backstage. So, if you could repeat, Alexander, I would be happy to elaborate.
Well, this question actually came from Mark. So, perhaps if you could just reiterate your last point and shoot the ball back over to Thomas.
So the point was, Thomas, how you're seeing it, we have got the data connections, the data lakes from the different sources in, and we have got the connectivities on the one hand with the technology. And my comment was that in many situations, customers looking to themselves and saying, we want to disrupt ourselves, or we want to completely reinvent ourselves. But I think reality is customers mainly want to modernize themselves, and not having that harsh and that direct, like we are sometimes reading it in the news and the press, where everybody says you need to disrupt yourself. And I think we have got a history where we can rely on, and that goes aligned with market image as well. But as well, there's a lot of assets already existing in the organization. I think one of the key elements is simply to take the gold nuggets you already have in your organization and just give a little bit of polishing to them and bring them back to shine.
Yeah, I very much agree with that, Mark. As you can see, the word disruption was very, very popular 3 years ago, right? Everyone needed to disrupt the world, like be the next Airbnb and Uber. But now we see that companies have a much more healthy relation to innovation and to advanced technologies. We even don't call it disruptive technologies anymore. And I very much agree that you can do amazing things with technology, but you really need to have the eye on the ball, and you really need to know what kind of problems you're solving, and at least how can you integrate it into the core business of a particular company.
Mm-hmm. Well, core business is a really good key point there. Perhaps to you, Mark. So how do we do it as a company? How does NEBS build the bridge between the new technologies that we come up with, innovation, but also our core business?
I know that we have got the process knowledge, the process expertise, where we really can consider the end-to-end business process and enhance it with modern technology. So let's say if we have got a purchase or order to cash process, there's already the processes being established. But if we bring in some modern technologies in terms of an app integration, maybe some sensor integration, we can talk about the self-ordering machines in a manufacturing environment, where all of the technologies come together. And at the end, what we need is we have a data entry point, and we need a data exit point, or it needs to trigger a process step. And there it comes to the billing mechanism, or somehow to any kind of customer value discussion. And that is where we are living on that one, and where we're simply saying we're enhancing the business process with modern cool technologies. But on that one, I really need to rely on Matthias here for a second. If we are looking through the world of ecosystems where we are currently being facing and discussing it, it means a lot of integration with hyperscalers, with modern cloud providers, with the classical core business integration, which you may have got on an in-house data center, which we are calling in the IT section always on-prem. So how is that one working from your end?
Good question. And I think, again, we already touched upon the point early on. So the technology is more or less like out in the open, if you want to call it like that. It is proven, it is working, it is available at the fingertips in the hyperscaler environment. So coming from AWS, GCP, or Microsoft Azure, and so on. And we just, in quotation marks, obviously, we just need to consume that one. So we don't necessarily need to reinvent the wheel for the 42th time. We just can consume these kind of services. And then again, obviously, we are, from an operations perspective, managed services can play a vital role in that one. Run it as a hybrid approach. So combining the core competencies on the on-premises solutions, using the services coming from the hyperscalers or the business technology platform from SAP, but also integrating the edge devices. And then again, Wolfgang comes back into the play again. So this is the continuum again in which we are operating and which we are already doing since a couple of years now.
Let me quickly add something to that, Matthias. I mean, we have these worlds of let's say areas, technology areas. But when Mark just spoke of ecosystem of ecosystems, it is not just on the technology side, it's also on the business side. Look beyond your edges. Look beyond, and this is also a little bit maybe appeal to you, to say, look beyond your classic ERP, look beyond your classics. So I'll give you an example. We have a customer in Munich, in south of Germany, who is an automotive supplier, and they wanted to use cameras to control and monitor the packing process. We did a project with them, and during the project, they tried to bring this in sync with their processes. Finally, we find out that the camera is maybe not the right tool in their surrounding, and so we changed it to another technology. It was easy. It was from one, I would say, more minute to another minute to think about different technologies, but still supporting the same process, optimizing shop floor, optimizing production. So this is for me very important that we go this hand in hand of maybe the classic disciplines together with the technologies and to build really interoperability between the platforms.
So Wolfgang, that means if we are talking about interoperability between the platform, that we need to have data security among all the different platforms as well.
Yeah.
So I think that perfectly leads into the hyperscaler discussion, which Matthias previously discussed, data privacy protection, where we are storing the data. So there's a lot of more elements which we quickly need to consider here in that one. So on the one hand, it's the process level. On the other hand, it's data and security in integration. I think there's the modern technologies like we are seeing with AI and IoT and blockchain is maybe a security element or some further coming in. But what we shouldn't forget is simply the user interface. So the user experience, which lifts ourselves up to the next level. And we are seeing here during the show today a few elements which are really outstanding in terms of asset usage and user experience. We are just on the starting point of a new journey where we all elaborating new user interfaces, which I expect coming in. So how is your view on that one?
Come back to the example of Smart Island, and we had these cameras. And of course, people were concerned about cameras. What happens? Do they recognize my license plate and know exactly who I am? And see the people, you have seen this in the video. The same was at this customer I just mentioned. The people were afraid that we take pictures of them and register that. So security was one effect on one side we have to explain and try to bring security from the beginning very close to the camera. Second is, after we clarified this, the user said, oh, it's very helpful for me. I can now really support my process. And that was usability. they saw really a big benefit. And this is also convincing people and bring this and synchronize that together. So security in one aspect, but the usability is very important. Otherwise, we will not convince the people.
Okay, great. So we have to close now. That was very interesting. I would love to carry this on. We learned about what innovation is, how we define it, how it can be transferred into different different industries, and how we at NEBS link innovation to the core business. I'd like to say thank you in the name of this group and hand back to Christiane. Have a great day.
Thank you. Have a great day and enjoy.